Episode 12, Part 1, The Day After the Fall.
Welcome, everyone, and welcome back. Finding Light in Darkness, Episode 12. This one's called Pieces of Me, Rebuilding Life After Breakdown. And I'll be honest, I don't think I've ever seen Scott more ready to go deep than he is today.
Hey fam, this one's been on my heart for a while because we always talk about the breaking, right? The fall, the shattering moment. But we don't talk enough about what comes after. What happens the next morning, the next week, when the adrenaline's gone, but the pain hasn't left?
Right? The rebuild doesn't get its spotlight, but it should. Because the truth is, surviving the fall, that's heroic. But choosing to rebuild after, that's something else. That's what takes real guts.
And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Today, we start from the ground up, from the day after everything in your world goes silent. The fall isn't clean. It's not like in the movies. There's no dramatic swell of music and then the lights fade to black. No, the fall is messy. And the next morning, it's quieter than you think. I remember waking up after my breakdown like it had been a regular night. The mirror was still cracked. The blood on my hand had dried. The house was still silent. And I sat there, not crying, not panicking, just breathing.
That silence is terrifying for some people.
It is, because silence makes you hear things you've been ignoring. Your thoughts, your shame, your truth. And the voice in my head kept asking me, now what? I didn't have an answer, but that now what? That became the first step in rebuilding. Not because I knew what came next, but because I knew I didn't want to stay there forever. That morning I stood in the kitchen. I had nothing left, no job, no partner, no plan, just my breath, my heartbeat, my name, and for a moment I thought, maybe that's enough to begin.
You started with nothing, but it wasn't nothing. It was a foundation.
Exactly. I didn't try to make a life plan. I didn't write a checklist. I just made toast, 2 slices, no butter, stale bread. But I ate it, and then I sat on the floor and stared at the window. That was my day one of rebuilding, and it's funny, the mirror was still cracked. I didn't bother cleaning it, but I stood in front of it anyway. What I saw wasn't a man, it was a memory of a man. Pale skin, tired eyes, shoulders slumped like they were carrying bricks. And yet, something else was there. Something defiant, something quiet but alive.
Hope?
Not quite, but potential. Not a loud voice saying, you've got this. But a whisper saying, you're still here. You want to know what rebuilding sounds like? It sounds like this. Okay, mate, breathe. Just stand up, that's enough. Don't worry about the dishes yet. Just drink some water. You're not broken, you're just tired. And those little mantras, they became my scaffolding. Not lies, not toxic positivity, just permission to keep going. That hit hard about 3 days in. I kept waiting for what? I didn't even know. A phone call, a knock on the door, a sign, something to say, it's okay, we've got you. But no one came. And that's not because no one cared. It's because I never told anyone I'd fallen.
You suffered in silence for so long.
Yeah, because I was ashamed. Because I thought I should have known better. But when no one comes, you learn to reach for your own hand. That's when I made my first proper choice. I decided I wouldn't wait to be rescued. I'd become my own rescue. Day 4, I wanted eggs. And it took me 45 minutes to make 2 scrambled eggs. Not because it was hard, but because I kept freezing. I'd crack the egg and stand there. I'd turn on the stove, then turn it off. Every action felt heavy. Every choice felt dangerous. But eventually, I did it. I sat at the bench, ate those eggs, and felt proud.
That's resilience. That's the rebuild beginning in real time.
It was. Not dramatic, but mine. I used to write every day, poetry, rants, reflections. But after everything, I stopped for months. Then one night I picked up a pen and wrote, you don't have to be anything for anyone else right now. Just stay alive. Just be. That was it. But it cracked something open. I wrote the next day and the next. Not to publish, not to fix, just to hear myself again. It was Into My Arms by Nick Cave and came on the radio while I was trying to tidy up. And I broke, full body sobbing, knees on the floor, not because of the lyrics, but because I felt something. Pain, longing, beauty. That was the first time I felt alive again.
It's amazing how art finds us in those moments.
Yeah, that song became my anthem for a few weeks. Not because it promised to fix, but because it understood me. The first 30 days were a blur: wake up, sit, walk, cry, write, breathe, repeat. But somewhere between day 27 and 28, I laughed, like genuinely laughed. I saw a kookaburra outside the window doing this ridiculous head bob, and I cracked up. And I thought, where the hell did that come from? It was unexpected joy, and it mattered.
That's the turning point. That's the rebuild beginning to lift you, not just keep you upright.
I didn't suddenly go for runs. I didn't start meal prepping or journaling every night. Some days, rebuilding looked like not giving up, like brushing my teeth, like texting someone back, like not drinking it. Those were the bricks.
And brick by brick, you built this version of you.
Yeah, this version who's here now, talking, helping, healing. And I'm still building every day. But now I know the fall isn't the end. It's the start of the rebuild.
That's it for part 1. That's where the foundation gets laid.
And next we talk about what it's like to figure out who the hell you are now, when the old you is gone and the new you is still forming.
That's coming up in part 2. Who am I now?
Stick with us. The light's still ahead. Part 2. Who am I now?
Let's talk about that next phase in the rebuild. You've made it through the silence. You're waking up, eating toast, crying to Nick Cave. You're breathing again. Now comes the big one. Who am I now?
Yeah, that question haunted me for months. Because the man I used to be, the man who cracked jokes, ran a business, kissed his daughter goodnight, and tried to save everyone else, that bloke was gone. The version that survived, I didn't know him yet. Before the grief, before the breakdown, I had roles, titles, habits. I was dad, I was partner, I was the funny guy, the helper, the one who showed up. And suddenly, I wasn't any of that.
When you strip away the labels, what's left?
That's what terrified me. I stood there some mornings thinking, if I'm not all those things anymore, then who the bloody hell am I? Some days I'd avoid the mirror completely. Other days I'd stare, hoping to see a flicker of the old me. But he wasn't there, just this tired stranger. And the scariest part, I didn't hate him, I just didn't know him.
That moment where your own face feels like someone else's, that's grief at an identity level.
Exactly. I wasn't just mourning her or my past. I was mourning me. Eventually, I stopped trying to be him again. Instead, I started collecting little moments that felt like me. Even if they didn't fit the old version. The way I sat with a stranger in silence. The comfort I found in writing late at night. The way I listened to a song and let myself cry instead of running from it. Those weren't performances, they were real.
You were meeting yourself for the first time, in fragments.
I realized I had to build this new version of me on purpose, not by accident. And so I asked, what do I value now? What hurts too much to carry? What feels true in my bones? And slowly, a picture began to form, not clear, not finished, but honest. Someone asked me what I do, and for the first time in my life, I didn't say, I run a business. I said, I talk to people about pain. It was weird, but it felt right, because that is what I do. I talk, I write, I listen, I share.
That's not just purpose, that's honest alignment.
And it doesn't mean I'm always sure. Some days I still question it all, but this new identity, it's mine. Built from fire, from truth, from healing. We define ourselves based on how others see us. But after you break, after you hit the floor, those external reflections vanish. You're forced to look inward, and at first you don't like what you see, but then you notice the courage it took to survive, the empathy growing in your chest, the way your scars don't lie, and slowly you begin to see a new reflection, not polished, but real. This is the wild part, mate. The old me, he needed the world to validate him. The new me, he finds his worth in stillness. That doesn't mean I don't struggle. It means I'm not waiting to be fixed anymore.
Because you're not broken, you're rebuilt.
Yeah, brick by brick, truth by truth, and it's messy, but it's mine. Here's the thing. People can leave, jobs can go. Money disappears, houses flood, love dies. But who I am now, that can't be taken, because it wasn't given to me. It was forged in pain, grown in silence, revealed in reflection.
And that's powerful.
It is. And to anyone listening, if you don't know who you are anymore, start small. Notice what feels real. Follow what softens your shoulders. Build from that.
So now that you've started piecing yourself together, what comes next?
Next, we talk about the ghosts, the versions of me I used to be, and still sometimes miss.
That's coming in part 3, The Ghost of Who I Was. Keep walking with us.
One piece at a time, we're getting there. Part 3, The Ghost of Who I Was.
So, we've talked about the fall, and we've talked about the rebuild. But now we're stepping into the part that sneaks up on you in the quiet, the part nobody warns you about.
Yeah, the ghost, the version of me I used to be. Before the trauma, before the loss, before I shattered. He still walks with me sometimes. Not as a friend, not as an enemy, more like a shadow, more like a reminder. It's weird, mate. Sometimes I'll be walking down the street and out of nowhere, I hear his laugh in my head. The old me. The me who would crack a joke to break tension. The me who hugged people without fear. The me who believed things would get better just because they had to. And for a second, I miss him so badly it physically hurts.
Because that version of you was, what? Safe?
He was lighter. He didn't carry what I carry now. I remember the way I used to move through the world, chest out, confident, joking. Even when things were hard, I could bluff through it. But when everything fell apart, that bluff didn't work anymore. Now when I remember him, it's with mixed feelings. Love, longing, and sometimes resentment.
Why resentment?
Because I didn't know how much he was ignoring, how much he was burying, how much pain he refused to look at. There are mornings where I wake up and for a moment, just a second, I see him in the mirror again. Not me now, not the man I've become, but the one I used to be, with that spark, that fire, that mask.
And what do you feel when you see him?
Sometimes I smile, other times I say, "You did your best, but I had to take over." This might sound dramatic, but I had to grieve him, the old me. Because when your identity collapses, you don't just move on, you mourn. I actually wrote a eulogy once. Not for her, not for the house I lost, but for me.
Would you share it?
Sure. Here lies the man who never asked for help, who carried too much, smiled too wide, and drowned in silence. You were strong, mate, but you didn't have to be. I'll carry it from here. It wasn't all bad, though. There are parts of the old me I wanted to keep. His humor, his love of early morning air, the way he cared for his mates, even if he never said it out loud. So I didn't bury him completely. I invited him in just as a guest, not the driver.
You don't have to erase the old you. You just have to stop letting him make decisions.
Exactly. Here's the tricky part. Some days when things get overwhelming, I feel myself slipping back into his skin. I go quiet, I numb out, I fake my way through, and that's how I know healing isn't linear.
So, what do you do when he shows up?
I sit with him, I listen, and I say, "You don't have to protect me anymore. I've got this now." One night I wrote him a letter. "You did what you had to do. You survived things we weren't ready for, but I'm here now, and I'm building something new. You can rest." It sounds strange writing to a version of yourself, but it worked.
Because you stopped fighting him and started thanking him.
Yeah, that was the shift. The ghost of me, the old me, he was charismatic, he was functional, he was unwell, and I don't want to be him again, but I'm grateful for what he taught me. Like how to keep going, how to care, how to love, even if it was clumsy, even if it hurt. And there was a time I blamed him for the relationship falling apart, for not being enough, for pretending too well. But I've made peace. Now when I think of him, I say, "Thank you for surviving. I'll take it from here."
That's healing, mate.
It is. It's not a rejection. It's a release.
In part 4, we're going even deeper. What are the tiny things that saved you when nothing else could?
You'll be surprised. They weren't big, they were small. Socks, songs, standing still.
That's coming next in part 4, the small things that save us.
Keep walking with us. We're building something beautiful here. Part 4, the small things that save us.
We've talked about the fall. We've talked about identity. We've even faced the ghost of who you used to be. Now, let's talk about something quieter. The things that saved you, not the big heroic stuff. The small things.
Yeah. Because let me tell you, mate, it wasn't some big event or life-changing moment that pulled me back. It was a pair of socks. No, seriously, it was clean socks.
Let's go there.
It was maybe day 5. I hadn't showered. I'd been in the same clothes for too long. And I finally opened the bottom drawer and found a clean pair of socks. They weren't fancy, just cotton, a bit worn. But I put them on and I felt different. Not fixed, not healed, but a little less like a ghost.
Because something small changed your state.
Exactly. It wasn't about the socks. It was the choice to care for myself, even if just my feet. Day 7, I think. The sink was full. The smell was rough. And for some reason that day I thought, let's just wash one plate. That's it, just one. 15 minutes later, the whole sink was clear. And I stood there with wet hands, breathing deeper than I had in a week. It felt like control, like maybe I wasn't helpless after all. This one was a game changer. I kept the blinds shut for nearly 2 weeks. Darkness felt safer, but one morning I cracked them open just an inch. The light hit the wall and I burst into tears, and not because it hurt, but because it reminded me that the world was still happening. Birds, wind, leaves, life, and I was still in it.
That's powerful. Sunlight doesn't fix the pain, but it challenges the darkness.
This one's weird. I lit a candle one night, one of those $2 shop ones, vanilla scented. And for hours I just watched the flame, didn't touch my phone, didn't cry, just sat there, breathing. That candle burned for 4 hours, and when it went out, I felt lighter.
It became a ritual, a still point.
Yeah, like I could measure time, not in pain, but in peace. At some point, I stopped trying to run from the grief, the guilt, the anxiety. I sat on the edge of my bed, hands on my knees, and said, okay, I'm listening. And it came. Memories, voices, fears, but I didn't run. I just stayed, and when it passed, I was still here. That changed me. Music became a lifeline, but not loud stuff, not upbeat stuff. Songs that understood me, like Into My Arms, like Breathe Me by Sia, like Someone Like You on an acoustic guitar at 2 a.m. on repeat. Those songs didn't cheer me up. They sat with me.
That's what we need sometimes. Not motivation, companionship in the dark.
Exactly. Music said, you're not crazy, you're not alone, you're just human. Some days I'd just write one line. That's all I could manage. Stuff like, you made it through today, you're allowed to feel this. Keep breathing. I'd leave it on the fridge, on the mirror, in my phone notes, and those little messages became anchors. Scott. There was a day, random Tuesday, I got a message from an old friend. Hey mate, don't need a reply, just thinking of you. I didn't reply, but I stared at that text for hours. It became proof that someone, somewhere, still had a bit of light with my name on it.
You don't need a rescue squad. Sometimes you just need a reminder.
Exactly, and that was one. I learned about spoon theory, how each task costs you a spoon of energy, and some days you wake up with only 3 spoons. So I picked carefully. Brushing my teeth, 1 spoon. Taking a walk, 2 spoons. Cooking a full meal, forget it. That helped me stop judging myself.
You turn tiny wins into victories.
Yeah, because some days, survival is a win. There's a little plant in my window, a gift. I almost let it die, but one day I gave it water, then again the next day. And after a week, I noticed new leaves. It felt like watching myself come back to life, because if something small and silent can survive after neglect, maybe I can too.
In part 5, we're going to talk about the past and how to stop letting it define you.
Yeah, because you can rebuild your life, but if the past keeps dragging you backwards, you stay stuck.
That's next in part 5, Making Peace with the Past.
See you there, beautiful souls. Part 5, Making Peace with the Past.
So far, we've walked through the fall, the quiet rebuild, the ghost of who you used to be, and the small things that helped you breathe again. Now, it's time to face something even heavier, the past.
Yep, because it's one thing to survive the breakdown. It's another to live with everything that came before it. The memories, the regrets, the what-ifs, and the things I said, the things I didn't say, and the weight of knowing I can't go back. People say, oh, the past is the past. But trauma doesn't follow that logic. It's not a calendar item. It's a presence. It shows up in your body, in your dreams, in the way your shoulders tense when someone raises their voice. The past doesn't ask permission. It just moves in.
And you lived with it, didn't you?
I still do. But now we talk. The past caught up with me the moment the silence set in. Suddenly, I wasn't distracted. There was no work, no noise, just me and everything I'd tried not to think about. The fights I had with her before she died, the promises I broke, the moment I saw my daughter cry and didn't know how to comfort her, the nights I drank instead of feeling.
That's a flood, an emotional one.
It knocked me over. For years I told myself it wasn't your fault. You were doing your best, they would have understood. And maybe some of that was true, but I also had to face the parts that weren't. I did abandon myself. I did ignore the signs. I did make choices that hurt people. And facing that wasn't self-hate, it was honesty. There's a night I remember clear as day. I sat down with a notebook and wrote, let's list it all. Everything I felt ashamed of, every guilt, every moment I avoided. I filled 5 pages. I cried so hard I couldn't see the lines.
And then what?
I burned it, not as a way to forget, but as a way to release. People think forgiveness is soft, but it's bloody brutal, because true forgiveness, especially of yourself, means owning it, naming it, letting go of the punishment you've been inflicting for years.
You stop beating yourself up and start saying, that version of me didn't know better, but I do now.
Exactly. It's not forgetting, it's remembering differently. I did something once that nearly broke me, but also healed something deep. I stood in front of the mirror, looked into my own eyes and said, I forgive you. At first I couldn't say it. I'd start, then stop, tears, rage, silence. But on the 3rd day, I said it fully, and I meant it.
That's sacred. That's rebirth.
I'll never forget this moment. I stood at her grave and I said, I'm sorry I didn't answer that call. I'm sorry I wasn't softer when you needed softness. I loved you with everything I had, even when I didn't know how to show it. The wind moved through the trees and I felt peace, not closure, but peace.
You don't always get replies, but you get release.
Now, I don't try to erase the past. I let it sit beside me, not behind me, where it haunts. Not in front of me, where it blocks. Beside me, I say, you were real, you were hard, but you're not in charge anymore. Here's a game changer. I took moments from my past, the worst ones, and rewrote them. Not to lie, but to shift the focus. That wasn't weakness. That was survival. That wasn't failure. That was learning. That wasn't shame. That was pain asking to be heard.
And that's how we reclaim our story.
The past doesn't go away, but it doesn't have to own you. It can be a compass showing you what matters, what not to repeat, who you want to be now.
And it stops being the villain, becomes the teacher.
Yeah, a bloody painful one, but wise.
So, in part 6, we're going to shift towards something softer, but just as hard.
Yep, we're talking about love, how to believe you deserve it, how to hold it, and how to love again after everything.
Coming next, part 6, how to love again.
Don't miss it. It's tender, it's messy, it's real. Part 6, how to love again.
All right, we've rebuilt the foundation, faced the ghosts, survived the silence, and made peace with the past. Now comes the scariest chapter of all, love.
Yeah, not just romantic love. I'm talking about the act of loving, letting someone in, letting yourself be seen. Because after trauma, that feels impossible.
So, let's start with that wall. Because it doesn't go up overnight, does it?
Nope, but it stays up until you're ready to knock it down. After she passed, and after everything else collapsed, I made a promise I didn't even realize I made. No one else gets close again. Not like that. Not ever. And so, the wall went up quiet, sturdy, high.
Because loving again meant risking that kind of pain again.
Exactly. And at the time, I wasn't sure I'd survive it a second time. Here's the trick: I still talked to people. Still laughed, still flirted, still joked around, but no one really saw me because I was hiding in plain sight.
That's common. You get good at being fine.
Yeah, I became an expert at fine, but every now and then someone would say, "You seem distant," and I'd go cold because distance was safe. For a while, the only kind of love I believed in was memory. The kind I had with her, the way we'd sit on the couch and just exist. The way her hand fit mine like it was made for it. No fights, no fireworks, just warmth. After she passed, I didn't think that warmth existed anymore. It felt like it died with her.
But warmth doesn't die. It waits.
Yeah, but you have to believe you're worthy of it again. There's this shame that comes after loss, and especially after trauma. You start thinking, anyone who gets close to me will get hurt. I'll ruin it. I'm too broken. So instead of love, you settle for loneliness. Because at least then, no one can leave you. It was slow, so slow. Coffee, a walk, a conversation that went 5 minutes longer than it was supposed to. And suddenly I realized I was letting someone see me. Not the fake, I'm fine, me. The real, unsure, hesitant me. And when she didn't flinch, that cracked something open.
You realize love didn't have to mean losing again.
Yeah, it could mean being found. I remember the first time someone hugged me and I didn't flinch. That was huge. Because for a long time, touch felt dangerous. Too close. Too much. But this hug, it was slow, safe. Like she was saying, "You're here now, I see you, and you're not too much." Old me didn't ask for anything. I just hoped people could guess what I needed. Spoiler, they couldn't. But rebuilding taught me to speak, to say, "I'm overwhelmed. I need space. I'm scared, but I want to try."
Love grows in honesty, not in pretending to be okay.
Exactly. Before, love was fireworks. Now, it's someone checking in, laughing at my worst joke, letting me cry without needing a reason. Love stopped being dramatic and started being steady. Some days, I still want to run. That fear still lives in my ribs. But I've learned to stay, to show up, to say, "I'm not perfect, but I'm present." Because love now isn't about being the best. It's about being real.
And that's the kind of love that lasts.
I didn't love myself for years. Didn't even like myself. But love taught me that if I can care for someone else, I can learn to care for me too. Now I sit with my scars and I say, "You're not ugly. You're proof." I look in the mirror and say, "You're trying, and that's enough." That's love. Not loud, not easy, but earned.
In Part 7, we explore the objects, memories, and keepsakes, the physical proof of who you've been and what you've survived.
Yeah, because sometimes healing lives in the drawer, in the photo frame, in the blanket you refuse to wash.
Coming next, Part 7, What I've Kept.
Let's keep going, beautiful. The rebuild's only just beginning. Part 7, What I've Kept.
We've talked about everything from falling apart to loving again, but there's something quieter we haven't touched yet. The things we keep, not just ideas or values, but the physical stuff. The items we carry, the things that survive the fall with us.
Yeah. This part's personal because after everything, you'd think I would have thrown it all away, but instead, I started noticing what stayed, what remained, what mattered, what I couldn't bear to let go of, and why 2018, the flood ripped through everything, photos, furniture, clothes, books gone, and as I stood in the mud-covered ruin of my lounge room, I realized something. There's no such thing as just stuff when it holds memories, but a few things survived: a coffee cup, a melted photo frame, my partner's old scarf, a stone my daughter gave me from a park walk. Those things weren't valuable, but they were sacred. It smells like her. Still, even after all these years, I don't wear it, I don't wash it, I just hold it sometimes when the panic rises, when the ache won't leave. I hold it like it's her hand. It reminds me, you were loved. You're still carrying her.
That's not weakness, that's memory as anchor.
Exactly. Some things aren't to be used, they're to be felt. One photo made it through the flood. It was waterlogged and curled at the corners, but it stayed. It's a photo of us, me, Her and our daughter at a picnic, clouds behind us, bare feet, laughter frozen in time. That photo sits on my bedside table, not as decoration, as reminder
Of who you were?
of who I still am. It's small, gray, nothing special. But she gave it to me when she was 3, said it looked like a heart. Keep it forever, Dad. And I did. Even when I couldn't keep myself together, I kept that stone because it was proof I mattered to someone. I was important. I was loved by a child. I started it in 2013, wrote about my dreams, goals, little poems. Then everything collapsed, and I stopped. But I never threw it out because even the unfinished has value. I flip through it sometimes and see who I was, naive, hopeful, honest, and I think maybe he's still in there too. It's a plush lion from when I was a kid. It sat in every bedroom I ever lived in. Most people wouldn't give it a second glance. But to me, it's my childhood, my strength, my softness, the part I had to hide to survive. So I kept it, even when I let go of everything else.
Because it reminded you of you.
Yeah, the parts I thought were gone. This one's tough. She left me a message a week before she died. Just a simple, "Hey babe, thinking of you. Talk soon." I've replayed it 100 times, not because it says anything profound, but because it's her voice. And when grief hits hard, I play it, and I remember she existed and she loved me. I built a playlist after the breakdown, songs that helped me feel. Into My Arms, Nick Cave, Fix You, Coldplay, All I Want, Codaline, Anchor, Novo Amor, Weightless, City and Color. It's not for cheering up, it's for sitting in the truth. That playlist became a ritual, my way of saying, feel it, don't run. I kept them in a shoebox, letters to her, to my daughter, to myself, some angry, some loving, some confused, but all honest. I never sent them, but writing them saved me, and I kept them because they're proof of my becoming. We don't always choose what we carry. Sometimes the things that remain choose us, but they tell a story of survival, of softness, of memory, and they become sacred, not because they're expensive, but because they remind us who we are.
In part 8, we're going to talk about the part nobody wants to admit.
Yeah, the setbacks, the relapses, the doubts, the times we don't want to rebuild.
Coming next, part 8, relapse, doubt, and forward again.
Don't worry, we'll walk through it together.
This part of the rebuild journey, it's the one people often skip over, but we won't. We're talking about setbacks, relapse, doubt, the stuff that hits after progress has been made.
Yeah, because the myth is, once you start healing, it's just up and up. Truth is, it's a bloody roller coaster. It was a Tuesday. Things had been going okay, better than they had in a long time. I was waking up, making food, even laughing, then boom, out of nowhere, a wave. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook, my chest closed, and without even thinking, I reached for the bottle.
Just like that?
Just like that? It's like the old wiring took over. I sat in the car park, bottle in hand, staring. I didn't want it, not really, but I was tired. Tired of doing the right thing, tired of pushing through. That night, I gave in, and I hated myself for it. You'd think I'd be angry the next morning. I wasn't. I was numb, ashamed, but mostly disappointed because I thought I was past this.
And that's where relapse hits hardest, the identity blow.
Yeah, it wasn't the hangover. It as the voice that said, "See, you're still broken." The mirror didn't lie. I looked pale, tired, older, and I said, "You slipped." But that doesn't erase your progress. I had to say it out loud because my mind wasn't going to offer me grace. This was big. I told a mate. Honestly, I slipped. I drank again. And he didn't judge me, didn't scold me. He just said, "Okay, what now?" And that saved me.
Because it kept the spiral from gaining speed.
Exactly. Honesty is a break. Relapse isn't just about addiction. It's about coping, control, exhaustion. I'd been strong for too long, and my body said enough. Now I know when I feel that urge rising, it's not a failure, it's a signal. After relapse, I didn't go back to square one. I picked up where I left off, with bruises, yes, but not broken. I said, okay, what did this teach me? And the answer was, you still need rest. You still need support. You still need softness. I used to push through everything. Pain, work through it. Sadness, ignore it. Loneliness, drink it away. But now, when I feel myself slipping, I pause, I cancel plans, I cry, I eat, I breathe. It's not weakness, it's survival. Even now, with everything I've done, doubt shows up. Am I really better? What if I lose it all again? What if they find out who I really am?
And what do you say back?
I say, hey, doubt. I see you. You can walk beside me, but you're not driving. Healing is messy. Recovery is non-linear, and setbacks don't mean failure. They mean you're trying. Now, when I fall, I don't stay down. I ask, what do I need right now? Then I give myself that, even if it's just a deep breath and a nap.
In Part 9, we share the voices of others, real people writing in with real rebuild stories.
Because you're not alone, and neither are we.
Coming next, Part 9, audience reflections and rebuilding stories.
It's going to hit home in the best way.
For this part of Episode 12, we wanted to open the floor not to us, but to you, to the people listening, reading, crying, fighting, trying. We asked, what does rebuilding mean to you? And you answered. Letter from Caroline, 49, New Zealand. Dear Scott and Michael, I'm a mom of 3 and I've battled anxiety most of my life. I hide it well, the smiles, the jokes, but inside, I'm exhausted. Your episode on anxiety made me cry, not out of sadness, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt understood. Thank you for being brave, and thank you for reminding me that I'm not broken, just rebuilding.
Caroline, you are absolutely not broken. You are strong in ways the world might never see, but we see you. From Jack, 37, former Army medic, WA. I've seen things I can't unsee, tried to drink them away, lost my marriage, almost lost myself. Your podcast got me back into therapy, and I've started painting. First time in 15 years. Just wanted to say thanks for cracking open a door I thought was welded shut.
Jack, your courage is incredible. Thank you for your service and your honesty. And keep painting, mate. Art is medicine too. From Lily, 18, Victoria. My dad listens to your podcast. He doesn't talk much about feelings, but he played episode 8 in the car. I didn't say anything, just cried silently in the back seat. I have depression, I've told nobody. But after hearing you speak so openly, I'm gonna try. Maybe my dad and I can talk one day. I hope so.
Lily, I hope you and your dad get that talk. And until then, we're here. Your feelings matter. You matter.
From Brian, 58, Bathurst. I lost my job in 2022 and my purpose with it. I've been rebuilding by planting vegetables. I know it sounds stupid, but watching something grow when everything else feels dead has helped me more than I expected.
Brian, that's not stupid. That's sacred. Growth in the ground mirrors growth in the soul. Keep planting, brother. From Mia, 33, separated, Brisbane. I listened to the love episode and cried. I'm currently separated. I told myself I'd never trust again, but your words cracked something open. Don't know if I'm ready to love again, but maybe I'm ready to hope. That's a start.
Hope is the start, Mia. Hope is the first brick in the rebuild.
Every single message, every name, every line, it tells me something I keep forgetting in my worst moments. I'm not the only one fighting to rebuild, and neither are you. We don't need to be perfect to keep going. We just need to keep going together.
In Part 10, we head into new ground. Spirituality, the unseen, the soul of the rebuild.
It's time to talk about what holds us up when logic fails.
Coming next, Part 10, the spiritual side of survival. There comes a point in rebuilding when logic stops working, when therapy feels quiet, when words, aren't enough. That's when something else steps in, something deeper. Call it spirit, energy, faith, the universe. Whatever name you use, it's what whispers, keep going.
Yeah. And for a long time, I ignored that whisper because I didn't trust anything I couldn't explain. But after everything I've been through, I had to believe there was something bigger holding me. There were nights I should have died, dark moments, drunken moments, desperate ones, and yet I didn't. And after a while, I started wondering, why not? There's no medical explanation, no textbook answer, but something kept me here. One night I was crying so hard I could barely sit up. I lit a candle, just needing something to focus on. A gust of wind blew through the house. Everything shook. But that candle, it didn't go out.
Goosebumps?
Yeah, and in that moment I whispered, if you're real, I'm listening. I'm not religious, not in the traditional sense, but belief, I've got that now. I believe in signs, in energy, in gut feelings, in people showing up right when I need them. That's spirit to me. I was walking on the beach, grieving, lost. I stopped, bent down, picked up a shell. Inside the shell was a perfectly shaped spiral, and it hit me. Life isn't broken. It's spiraling, returning, evolving. That shell became a symbol.
Like the universe reminding you, you're still part of this.
Exactly. I lost the poem in the flood, but I remember how it felt, so I rewrote it. I walk along the beach with the Lord, and I look at the Lord, then the ground. I say, why is there only one set of footprints? The Lord says, I'm not the one looking back. You've already been there. There's only one way to go, forward. A few months after she passed, I was begging for a sign, and there it was, a single white feather on the windowsill. No breeze, no birds, just there. Maybe it's coincidence, but it didn't feel like one.
Signs don't need to be proven. They just need to be felt.
I started tracking the moon phases, not for magic, but for rhythm, structure. A reminder that even darkness follows a cycle. Full moon equals peak emotion. New moon equals rest, waning, reflection, waxing equals rebirth. It gave me permission to feel, to change. Einstein said there is no such thing as time. So how can we say time heals all wounds? Healing isn't passive. It's interrupting the loop, grabbing that moment, that trauma, and saying, I'm not ignoring you anymore. It's sticking your hand in the gears and saying, we stop here, we listen. For anyone listening who's not sure where to start, here's what helped me. Sit outside barefoot, feel the earth, light a candle and stare at it. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 8. Repeat, I am still here. Write a letter to whatever you believe in, even if it's just the stars.
That's not woo-woo. That's survival.
At the end of the day, spiritual survival means this. I believe in me, not perfectly, not every day, but enough to keep showing up. Because the divine, it's not just above us, it's within us. And when I forget that, I look at the people I've helped, the voices I've heard, the breath in my lungs, and I remember, I didn't come this far to only come this far.
Part 11 is about something we all struggle with, forgiveness.
Forgiving others, forgiving the past, and maybe even forgiving ourselves.
Coming next, Part 11. Forgive me, forgive you.
And I think we're finally ready for it. If I'm being honest, this part has taken me years to face. Forgiveness wasn't just hard. It felt impossible because I carried it all like armor. The pain others caused me, the guilt I caused myself, the rage I couldn't let go of. But I've learned this much. Forgiveness isn't about freeing them. It's about freeing me. There are things I've never said out loud, things that happened behind closed doors, words that cut, hands that hurt, and for a long time I thought forgiving them meant letting them off the hook, but it doesn't. It means this. I refuse to let your damage write my story anymore.
That's strength. That's reclaiming.
Now here's the harder part. I've hurt people too. said things, did things, let addiction speak for me, let anger wear my skin, and some people will never forgive me. That's their right. But I've had to learn to face myself, to look in the mirror and say, you did harm. Now do healing. I wrote a letter once to the man who abused me when I was young. I never mailed it. I never will. But writing it gave me power, because in that moment I wasn't silent anymore. I said, you don't own me. Not anymore.
Forgiveness has two faces: letting go of what someone did to you, letting go of who you were at your lowest.
Exactly. And it's not a switch you flip. It's a practice. Some days I still feel hate. Some days I still feel shame. But I don't let those feelings lead anymore. I blamed the world for a long time. Why her? Why floods? Why me? I screamed into the sky more times than I can count, but eventually I had to stop waiting for an answer and instead say, I accept that I may never understand, and I choose peace anyway. He didn't know better. He was scared, alone, trying to survive. I used to hate him, that little boy version of me. Thought he was weak, thought he should have spoken up, should have run. But now I see him differently. He wasn't weak, he was stronger than I knew. So I look at that inner child and say, I'm sorry, I love you, thank you for surviving. I've said this in the mirror. I forgive you to myself, to the past, to the universe. It felt weird, fake even, but the more I said it, the more true it became. People expect you to be tough, to forgive fast, to move on, but real forgiveness, it's raw, ugly, tearful, quiet, and it doesn't have to be public. Sometimes forgiveness is whispering to yourself at 3 a.m. Sometimes it's just not holding that weight anymore. Forgiveness didn't change what happened, but it changed me. It gave me room to breathe, room to love again, room to rebuild without rage. And that's what this journey is about, letting go so we can let in something better.
And in part 12, we close the circle.
Yeah, we've fallen, broken, rebuilt, reflected, forgiven. Now it's time to rise.
Coming next, part 12, reclaiming the light.
Let's finish this journey together at part 12, reclaiming the light. Thank you. To every single one of you still listening right now, thank you. This episode's been heavier. I won't lie. It's hit me harder than I expected. There were moments writing this where I thought, I can't do this anymore. But then I remembered you. I remembered why we started this. Your emails, your stories, your strength. That's what kept me going. And Michael, without you, mate, I wouldn't be here. That's the truth. You've carried this with me when I couldn't lift it on my own. And today, yeah, I'm holding it together, just. But only because I'm not holding it alone.
Scott, we've seen you fight through hell and keep going. You're not alone now, and you never have to be again.
To anyone out there hurting right now, you matter, you are not broken, and you are not beyond rebuilding. If you made it this far, you're part of this light we're building together. Thank you for walking with me. Until next time, hold on. Crisis support, Lifeline Australia 13114. Beyond Blue 1300224636. Email Scott anytime. Chat with Scott findthelight@gmail.com. So reaching out for help isn't giving up. It's fighting back.
Soul searching, fall apart, tunnel vision, hiding in the dark. Well, I ain't gonna holler before I really bleed. Salvation, a quick fix remedy. You said I never could change. I thought I never could change. They said I never could change. Damn right, never would. Leave the light on. the light on. Just leave the light on. Yeah, leave the light on. If I'll ever change, been dreaming of Nashville, Tennessee, while the cold here in Sweden got the best of me. Well, haven't I got better things to think about than that? Like deadlines, rent's due, bills pile up, family day in, day out, the clock's mocking me, getting old, oh God, the kids deserve so much more than this, gotta get rich. You said I never could, ever could change. I thought I never could, ever could change. They said I never could, ever could change. Damn right, never